It's a natural question. Do Georgia fans need to be nervous about the running backs coming into the 2022 season? Let me lay this down a little bit, okay? For a long time, you've had Zamir White and James Cook around. I mean, they've been around the block for a while, and they have been dependable. They've been good players, national champions, obviously. So are Kenny McIntosh and the other guys returning, Kendall Milton. But they've not had to shoulder the load the same way that James and Zamir did at times. Because it depended on which game, right? I mean, James Cook was unbelievable in the Orange Bowl and against Tennessee. He was unstoppable. Is that the best way to put it? Zamir was a steady presence. He essentially scored a touchdown in every single game he played. Not every single game. He averaged a touchdown, just under a touchdown for every game he played. That's a lot of production, and you're missing the production. Well, Kirby Smart talked about that this week, and we're going to get into what Kirby had to say about his running backs and about where these guys are headed in the 2022 season. Before I do that, you're running out of time to get the signed autograph copy of DAWGSTRUCTION from Stetson Bennett. Speaking of running backs, there's a lot of images in here you're just not going to find anywhere else. That's the number one thing people talk about. As much as I would love to talk about my writing, the number one thing people discuss, the images, the imagery, you're not going to get them anywhere else. How do I know that? Because I know that. Because I'm there taking the images and we're doing stuff that other folks aren't doing. Other folks have this image, but it's beautiful on our page, right? Make sure that you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. And you can see right there, that picture up there with Stetson celebrating with Zamir. That was after a touchdown from Zamir relatively late in the Auburn game, or was it in the second quarter or something like that? It's they're just shots that you're going to want to keep and remember the rest of your life. They're all there, including Darnell Washington hurdling a Kentucky player. Will Kenny McIntosh hurdle someone this season? That's something FanDuel should have a prop bet on, is if Kenny McIntosh specifically will hurdle someone. Not doubting that Kendall Milton could or will. Here's what Kirby had to say about those two guys. He said, "Next man up." Those guys have watched the example set by so many backs before them, whether it's DeAndre Swift, whether it's James or Zamir. They watched two wonderful ambassadors for the University of Georgia do it the right way. If you can't follow that lead, then shame on you. So far, both of them have been tremendous leaders and have been positive. We're getting them to work. We're getting Dejon Edwards work. We need some depth at that position. That's the truth. We need some guys with some different skill sets, but I'm pleased with the work they're doing. They're not shying away from the work. They're both tremendous special teams players. They have a major role on our offense when they go in the huddle. When they look those linemen in the eyes, they challenge them to get yards. Those guys respond to Kenny and Kendall. I'm going to talk about Kendall Milton just for a second here. His physical attribute, listen, the guy can really run, okay? The biggest play he made last year was in the Kentucky game that I just showed you. When that ball was on the ground and nobody had blown a whistle and 21 players on the field stood around, Kendall Milton went and got the ball. Now, why was that important? Georgia scored on that drive. And that was the toughest first half Georgia had in the regular season, was the Kentucky game. Okay, it was tougher than the Clemson game in terms of just why won't these guys go away? And physically, I think it might have been tougher than Clemson. But that play, that moment, was really important in that game. That game could have become a real fight. But him picking that ball, recovering that fumble, was about as important a moment as there was at the start of this season and in the regular season. It showed Milton's ability to think. Running backs, we don't associate them with, oh, they got to think and process. Nobody else was processing. And Kendall Milton went and got that ball. Why talk about that? Because I know what Kendall Milton can do. We all do. We've seen it. And it's honestly frightening if he gets going. But it's the other stuff. It's the willingness to do the little things, to go get the ball when the whistle hasn't been blown, to pick up the blocks that you got to do, to run the route exactly the right way, and to do it the right way every single time. Those habits are the reasons, or those habits are the reason why he got that ball and Georgia continued with that drive and eventually scored. These are important things, y'all. These are important moments in time. If you don't do that, there's no telling where that game goes. That's the problem. That's the problem with not taking advantage of every single opportunity you've got during practices. And so when Kirby's saying that they don't shy away from work, it seems to me like Georgia's going to be in pretty good shape at running back. Will they be as elite as they were with James and Zamir? I don't know. That's going to be hard to do. That's going to be a challenging thing. Milton has the capability of being the type of back that gets to New York and is there for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I don't think he'll win it just because we don't do that anymore. But he is like he is built like Derrick Henry was, except he's shorter. That's what he looks like to me when I saw him play. When you watch him at Georgia, he's a big bruising back with the capabilities to break away with speed. He is a guy that literally coaches in the league have said to me that they don't want any part of if he gets going. Now, Kenny McIntosh, though, on the other hand, is different than that. He is Garrison Hurst light, I guess, a speed guy, a guy that, yeah, he slams it in there, no question. But he is more of a James Cook type guy that you better watch it after the first 3 yards because he could be gone. We've not seen him do that a lot. We saw it against Georgia Tech. We saw what he did against Cincinnati in that bowl game. He was deadly. And that what these guys can do late in games is frustrating for the defense because Georgia brought Kendall Milton in at the end of the Auburn game, I think it was in 2021, and they just hammered Auburn for the last 15 minutes of the game with Kendall Milton. Nobody wants to tackle Kendall Milton at the end of the game. Like I don't think anybody really wants to tackle Kendall Milton to begin with, but nobody wants to tackle that guy after you've been running around for 45 minutes and you're losing. This duo has a responsibility to itself to have their time in the spotlight, to show how special they can be. I knew Zamir was special after spending time with him when he was in high school. James Cook was quiet. I didn't, that was harder to tell. But those two have been a duo, the likes of which this school's not had a lot of. Sony and Nick, no Sean and Thomas Brown. There's not been a lot of combos. Now we see Kendall and Kenny. Where will their 2022 take them? I'll be at UGA Red Zone on Clayton Street Friday and Saturday of G-Day. I want to see you there.